Marta. I'm very happy to be joining you today as your host for this panel discussion, collegiate work and teacher professional development. The goal today for this panel is to explore and discuss, among other topics, collaborative work, the development of materials, the future of English and what implications that has for us as teachers, what makes an effective English teacher, like I said, among others. We have ideally a group of 6 panelists today. If not, there'll be only 5, but they're more than ready to share with us their insights. Before we start, I'd like also to welcome our rapporteur, that is Evelyn Guerrero, who will be summarizing all of the key points of the works presented today. And before we start, I would like to remind you of the format that we will follow. Each of our participants will have about 10 minutes to present their key points. And while they are speaking, you are more than welcome and free to leave your questions in the chat box. And just make sure that you say who your question is meant for. After the presentations are done, I will make a selection of those questions and I will make those questions to our speakers. All right, understood? So everybody is conscious that you only have 10 minutes. I know we all love talking and listening to ourselves, but we just have 10 minutes for today. So let's begin. I would like to introduce our first panelist, that is Jake McMillan, and he will be speaking today about the future of English, the implications for teachers. Let me just share his presentation. Okay. Okay, so I think we're ready. Jake, the audience is yours.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gloria. And thank you to the organizing committee from the LTIF forum. It's exciting to be here in this first edition, and I look forward to hopefully joining many more over the coming year. So greetings from Bogota, Colombia. This is an exciting opportunity to bring together Mexico, Colombia, and to a certain extent the UK in some of this research that I'll be presenting. This is my first time trying to present it in 10 minutes, so it's an excellent challenge, and we all like a challenge on a Saturday morning. So for those of you that aren't aware of what the British Council is first, we are the UK's leading organisation on cultural and educational relationships, working in Mexico since 1943. And a key part of the UK's work in cultural relations is around the English language and how languages can support individuals build connections, understanding, and trust, not just within their own communities, but within broader countries and across the ever more interconnected globe we have today. But this world that we're living in is changing rapidly. It continues to change, and the use of languages continues to change within that. So how we then teach and learn has to be constantly rethought and evolved as we go. So it's been wonderful to see through the event program the excellent work that's happening across Mexico and Sinaloa in this case. And hopefully here I'm just adding a little grain of sand into that conversation. Okay, that's a minute and a half of me speaking before I even jumped in. But here we go. Okay, let's jump in. So on the next slide, you'll see a little bit about how our program started. So in 2006, there was an incredibly influential piece of work called English Next, written by the linguist David Graddle, that talks about 14 predictions for how technology, geopolitics, learning styles was going to change the context of ELT over 15 years. So fast forward to 2020, 2021, in the midst of the pandemic, the British Council decided to revisit these predictions and think how many came true and how many didn't come true, or how many partially came true. And what does this then mean for the next 10, 15 years? So in 2023, we published an output called The Future of English Global Perspective. So I think if we give one more click, you might see a little image of what the research looks like. And this was built on a series of regional policy roundtables. So speaking to over 90 participants involved in making policy or influencing policy, from higher education or school sector, from almost 50 countries around the world, to think about where is the English language going from here, and what does that look like in our classroom. So this work, involving policy experts, teachers, parents, academics, employers, is all part of an ongoing conversation we're leading at the British Council around the future of English. And conversation is key, because here we see ourselves as a convener of ideas. We are not the knowledge holders. The knowledge exists across the English speaking world, and the 1.5 billion speakers of the language and their ideas and processes. So I mentioned David Graddle and his 14 predictions, but if we continue moving through the slides, you'll see one of the key outputs of our work. I think on the next slide, we'll see 8 thematic questions. So our findings from these conversations with policymakers in 49 countries saw that there were 8 key themes that you can see that we and our participants believe will play a significant role in the impact of the future of teaching and learning and assessment in English. However, what we decided to do was frame these not as, or take these findings and put them not into predictions, but into questions. Because as many of us as teachers will know, questions elicit input, engagement, conversation, and allow participants from across the world to share their experience and their knowledge as we go. So we've got 8 questions from the role of English as a lingua franca, the role of technology, assessment, what do employers need, and then 3 cross-cutting themes that you can see in blue around educational policies, the roles of different stakeholders, and of course, equality, diversity, inclusion. How are all learners and their different needs and requirements reflected in our processes? But today, we're just going to quickly zoom in on one of those that you can see in the top right corner around teachers. So I've got 2 slides that I wanted to share today around the role of teachers. Um, so, so high-level findings that we saw within our research work and these conversations is that without a doubt, the demand for English continues to be high for both individuals, institutions, and national economies and employers across the world. Yes, that varies in different countries and different contexts, but it continues to be a significant demand and driver for future opportunities for young people, and in fact, people of any age. And no doubt, English language teachers are essential to helping meet this demand. And the role of English teachers, and teaching itself has been central to this process, but of course, in continuous evolution. The changes that we're seeing today are potentially some of the most significant, but change in the ELT sector is not new. In fact, it's what we've had to embrace for a number of years. So thinking a little bit around these findings, it's clear to to all of us involved in the sector that teaching is both rewarding, yet challenging. And many teachers enter the profession with kind of sincere and kind of very positive motives. Many factors, whether that's related to working conditions, pay, lack of preparedness, or self-efficacy, can affect their motivation levels. And teachers need support and care throughout initial training, be that at universities and their faculties of education, or through their ongoing professional development. It's also worth thinking about that many decisions in education that directly affect our English language teachers are top down. Oh, I think we've gone on one slide. If we can go back to the previous one. Many decisions that affect teachers have come top down. They come from our principals, our deans, and this significantly kind of can at certain stages limit or hold back our teachers. So what we strongly believe and what our findings showed is that teachers can thrive when given the agency to experiment, develop, and innovate more and more. And this in turn allows them to support their students to flourish, which is at the end of the day what ideally our education systems should be designed for. And then finally, it goes without saying that by providing more agency, amongst other factors within our systems, providing supportive and inclusive working environments, we think there are opportunities for where there are opportunities for career progression. We can encourage our teachers to remain in the profession rather than leaving and finding other alternative spaces or opportunities. So as we come on to my last slide, we'll see just a couple of areas that we kind of from the British Council would like to encourage in terms of teachers' professional development. This isn't an exhaustive list. These are just some ideas, and I've seen through the LTIF program that many of these are already being explored in the work today. But in some resources that I'll be sharing on the next slide, there's ways to access many of the free content the British Council can help to support teachers in this area. But 4 areas that we'd like to encourage our teachers to think about: multilingualism. The days of the English only classroom, or in my experience when I was a student, French only or Spanish only, are long gone. I say long gone, they're gone. Maybe not so long. But we highly encourage practices that support the simultaneous use of multiple languages in classroom to aid our learning. So we have classrooms that better reflect the needs of our students and the realities outside of the classrooms in our wider, more multilingual societies. So how can we use a student's L1 to support their learning of their L2 or L3, and in this case, Spanish or potentially other indigenous languages that might be used across Sinaloa and Mexico to contribute to that. AI and technology, shock. Jake believes we need to think about how technology can play, but really we need to think about how we can best harness the use of technology in our classrooms as teachers again become students curious in what we're doing. But I would like to encourage that the ideas of our teaching and learning should be driving technology development and use rather than these shiny new technologies implicating on how we teach. So how are we involved in the conversations with ed tech organizations, developing practices and policies that best suit our classrooms and the needs of our
1
students?
minute left, Jake.
No problem. I've got 2 more points. So assessment. So once a dirty word in the teacher's room, we'd like to encourage continued conversation of the role of assessment for learning and the assessment of learning in supporting the development of our students, and how new assessment practices that are more holistic can help our students in everything that they do. And again, touching on the idea of well-being, not just for our students, but for ourselves as teachers, and how policies, practice, and institutional routines support teachers to thrive with the agency that they need. So that's all from me. On the next slide, as promised, I wanted to share a couple of links to some resources that might be helpful for teachers within this work. 10 minutes is a whistle-stop tour through one of these areas, and I'm sure we'll exploring it in different conversations today. And if you'd like to hear from us with other activities with our Future of English newsletter that we send out once every 2 months, that might be useful to you. And I'll stop and breathe and say thank you very much for having me today.
Okay, that was perfect. Perfect timing. It was about to ring. Okay, well, thank you so much, Jake, for your presentation. I am going to stop sharing your slides for now. And remember, if you have any questions, you can write them in the chat. Yes, you have time. So our next participant of the day is teacher Laura Jimenez.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to
Welcome.
see you. Oh, that's my pleasure. Okay.
Let me just,
I wait. Don't worry.
okay, let me just prepare your presentation.
Excellent.
Okay. So are we okay?
Yes.
Yes?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Laura, same time, okay?
Yeah.
I am going to let you know when you have 1 minute left.
Excellent.
And when the time is done, I'm just going to stop you.
Perfect. Don't worry.
Okay, well, thank you, Laura.
All right, then. Okay, let me just...
The audience is yours.
Okay. Well. Okay, good morning, everyone. It's a great honor to be here today at the First Language Teaching International Forum 2025. My name is Laura Jimenez Lizón, and I am a professor at Universidad Autónoma de Sinaloa. I am very excited to show and to share with you my work, okay, with you all. And I think it's the next one. Yeah, okay. Today, I'll be presenting a paper titled Curricula Restructuring Your Bachelor's Degree in English Language Teaching with a specialized emphasis and strengthening of digital and pedagogical competencies, right? The next one, please. Well, this research is highly relevant to the themes of this forum. It is part of Panel 3, Collegial Work and Professional Teacher Development, and it specifically addresses the subpanel on continuing education on foreign languages, okay? And my goal is to show how a curriculum change is not just an administrative process, but a powerful strategy for fostering professional growth within an academic community. Thank you to the conference for this wonderful opportunity. So could we go with the following one? Yeah. To begin, I want to set the stage by discussing the current landscape of language teaching. As we know, the global market and the needs of students are in a constant state of flux, always changing. They are demanding more from their education. They need skills that are not just theoretical, but practical and specialized. This dynamic requires that universities, and specifically our institution, WAS, continuously review and update our program to remain relevant and also effective. In the bachelor's degree in English language teaching, we identified a critical need for curriculum overhaul. Our analysis revealed a significant gap. While our current program provides a strong general foundation, it lacks a specialized training required to prepare graduates for specific high-demand niches in the labor market. For example, a teacher trained to work with adults in a corporate setting needs a different skill set than, for instance, working with young children in primary school or in preschool. The same goes for growing demand for translators and interpreters. Our curriculum simply wasn't designed to accommodate these distinct professional profiles. And this is the central problem of our proposal that aims to solve. The next one, please. So what is our solution? The core objective of this proposal is to provide our students with more specialized and diverse professional profiles. To achieve this, we have designed a solution built on these fundamental pillars. First, we are proposing the creation of a specialized emphasis. This is the most significant change. Instead of a single general degree path, we will offer a different specialization tracks. For instance, students could choose to focus on teaching English for specific age groups, preschool, basic, or high school, or they could select a career path in interpretation and translation. This gives them a competitive advantage and a clear professional direction from the very beginning, from the start. The second pillar is the strengthening of digital and pedagogical competencies. In an increasingly digital world, a modern teacher must be proficient in using technology for instruction. So our proposal integrates modules and workshops to ensure our graduates are skilled in educational technology and contemporary pedagogical methods. So through this process, we aim to revalue the high university standards of WAS by offering a curriculum that is innovative, relevant, and responsive to modern demands. We can position in that way with our program as a leader in foreign language teacher education. And within the methodology, to develop this proposal, we followed a rigorous methodology. Our research was conducted by a qualitative paradigm with a propositive and documentary design. We did not use a sample of participants this time, but rather our universe of study consisted of official institutional documents, as well as theoretical and normative references to the curriculum design. So we applied two primary techniques: documentary analysis and systematic bibliographic review. This allowed us to thoroughly examine existing literature and identify the specific needs and gaps that our proposal addresses. And this study was carried out in three main phases. First, a diagnostic phase, where we analyze global trends. Second, a design phase, where we conceptualize the new curriculum axes and specifications. And finally, a justification phase, where we consolidated the final proposal supported by these theoretical frameworks we reviewed. And in the key findings, okay, our documentary analysis yielded three findings that provide the foundation for our proposal. First, we identified clear formative gaps in the current curriculum. We found that the lack of specialized training was the primary barrier preventing our graduates from accessing specific employment niches, such as becoming certified translator or specialized teachers for early learners, for instance. Second, our review of key documents such as the UNESCO ICT Competency Framework for Teachers and the work of Education 4.0 showed an urgent need to integrate digital and pedagogical competencies. These are no longer just nice to have skills. They are essential for effective teaching in the 21st century. And third, we found that our proposal is perfectly aligned with Mexico's national educational policies. Specifically, it resonates with the principles of SEP's Common Curricular Framework for Upper Secondary Education, which emphasizes the need of flexible, relevant, and competency-based curricula. So this alignment confirms the proposal's significance and visibility with our country's educational system. And within the discussion, or as a concluding point, our work is more just than a proposal for a curricular change. It is a strategic move for professional teacher development and continuing education in foreign languages. By updating the curriculum, we are not just changing a document, we are creating a new incentive for our faculty. The need to teach these new specialized will encourage them to engage continuous professional training and benefits for everyone. Furthermore, the restructuring fosters collegial work, collaboration, The collaborative design of these new axes and modules will bring together faculty members and researchers, strengthening our academic community. In short, with this proposal, we'll offer a viable and relevant solution to modernize the curriculum, ensuring educational quality and professional relevance for both our students and our faculty in the field of language teaching. So that was the starting point, okay? Having an example from our own institution and trying to observe from the inside, right? So that could be the end of my presentation, and I can give you time to make questions if you feel to do it, okay, with pleasure. These are my details. You have my contacts, okay? Anytime you wish to collaborate, we are open hands. We share hands to you, right? Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your time. And we're here, right? And this is my last sentence. Always kind of inspiring everyone. We need it all the time. Teachers, we need inspiration all the time. Thanks a lot. I appreciate.
You had 40 seconds left, Laura, so great job.
I say hello to everybody in a formal way. Thanks for being
Well,
here.
thank you so much. Thank you so
My
much for
pleasure,
such
my pleasure.
an interesting presentation. Okay, I have seen that some people have already started writing down their questions, so remember that will be done at the end. So now I would like to welcome our participant number 3. That is Miss, teacher Tania Lopez. Yes. And she will be sharing with us an experience on collaborative development of the textbooks Let's Do It 1 and 2, an institutional experience in the WAS high school system. Okay, so we're here. Okay, so Tania, welcome again, and you may start now.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I'm going to talk about my experience collaborating in the creation of the books Let's Do It 1 and 2. Can you please continue with the next slide? As we all know, the textbook is one of the most important tools we have within the classroom. It continues to be an essential resource in the teaching learning process, even in this digital era, where we have a lot of aids besides the textbooks. And UNESCO says it also helps us structure and organize the content in a coherent and accessible way. Also, the effectiveness of this material depends largely on the quality of its elaboration, the cultural relevance of its content, and the ability to adapt to different educational realities. That's what we try to do in the bookmaking of Let's Do It 1 and 2. The next one, please. We have the Nueva Escuela Mexicana, or the New Mexican School. Our university had to adapt now to this new curriculum. The Marco Curricular Común en Educación Media Superior, which is a framework, makes explicit that the role of the teachers now, of the teaching community, will we become didactic designers, educational innovators, and agents of social transformation. This was applied also in this creation, because I'm a 30 hours a week teacher. I'm not in DGP, Dirección General de Escuelas Preparatorias, and I had the opportunity to contribute to these books. So can we move to the next, please? There are authors and other sources that mention more than 5 steps, but I'm going to focus on these ones. The first step will be the curriculum planning and design, which is the definition of learning objectives and the selection of the content according to the official curriculum. Then we have the writing and adaptation of content. That is the preparation of clear, precise text adapted to the cognitive level of the students, because a topic cannot be treated the same way if we are going to teach children, or in this case, the first year high school students. Then the graphic design and layout, which is the visual organization. Let's move on to the review and validation. Basically, quality control, check that everything is okay, that it can work with our students. And finally, the production and printing or digital publishing. Well, the curriculum planning and design, the university had a modification in its curricular program. We had to go from the 2018 plan to the 24 because of the New Mexico school. So we needed a book that could address the contents of that curriculum. We had a meeting in January 2024 where teachers from all over the state and the coordinators of our academy will address us if we wanted to participate in the elaboration of these books. And some of us showed interest. That's how some work teams were formed. And then they established some dates for the delivery of our work, checking the progress and revisions. Next, please. So in the content and creation adaptation, we had to adapt now. The New Mexican school divides the content of each sociocognitive resource, in this case, English 1 and 2. Remember, sociocognitive resource is the new name for subjects. Into progressions. So each work was organized to create the necessary lessons and exercises to address a progression. In my case, I had to work with 3 other teachers in the first book, and the second book, it was all by myself. So we had virtual and or face-to-face meetings. It depended on the nature of the teams. For example, I could work face-to-face with a colleague in my school, but we had virtual meetings with other teachers that were far from Culiacan, or if our schedules were not easy to get to. So we designed a progression. We tried to develop innovative materials, exercises that we knew would work with our students. We tried to relate it to the contents, to the context and the specific needs of the language. I think I tried really hard, for example, to make exercises that students would use in real life situations. And finally, well, we were monitored by the coordinators and advisors of the academy. Each lesson had to follow a didactic sequence. So every lesson had a warm-up, a reading and listening skill. Sorry for the misspelling, it's vocabulary in action activity. Then we had a grammar check, so it could be a chart or only an explanation about how to use the language. Then we had the writing and speaking skills exercises, and finally, a very easy assessment. So there were differences working in Let's Do It 2 and Let's Do It 1. As I mentioned before, in the first book, I worked with a group of 4 teachers. And the second book, I had to do it just by myself. I'm going to explain a little bit later why. So the first one, every lesson required the same didactic sequence in Let's Do It 1 and 2, as I mentioned before. And the next point, the use of the pictures or images. We were told in the first book that we had to use images with no copyright. Why? Because we didn't know how we were going to print the book. So to avoid legal issues, they told us that we had to use images with no copyright. In the second book, it was different because there was an arrangement. We settled an agreement. Well, I said we, but the jefe settled an agreement with a publishing house, and we just needed to use representative pictures or images so the publishing house could use their own ones. And finally, the grammar content. In the first book, we had free will to design the grammar content. In the second one, they told us that we had to be like more consistent, so the book appear more cohesive, more coherent, and they asked us to try to do or to try to have a structure similar to the other ones. The next, please. Now, the review and validation. In the first book, we had an internal team evaluation. So we check our contributions. We try to make sure that there were no mistakes and try to deliver the finest work we could do. We had constant communication with the coordinators of each region. They gave us feedback if we had a doubt, or they told us how we can overcome issues that we could face during the way. And the review of the final format. In the first book, we only had the sequence, the didactic sequence to follow. But then after they told us that Heroes, that was a publishing house that printed the book, they gave them a format. So we just had to fill that format to deliver our job. And the production and printing. Well, this was the job of the DGP, Dirección General de Escuelas Preparatorias. So the key role of production and printing fell on the academic coordinators and the director. They could get an agreement. The agreement was reached with Heroes Publishing House. And that's when they told us that we had a format and the way we had to work with them. The audio material, this is very, very important. We need to thank some students and some coordinators in the northern regions. They created the audio materials with artificial intelligence. We are in a public university, and remember that we have students from very different socioeconomic contexts, so we needed a book that was affordable, for not saying cheap. So they had to respect like a limit of a price, and the publishing house accepted a price, but they said that there will not be audios in the book. So some students helped develop some audios. Can you please play so the audience hear a little bit of one of them?
Just give me 1 second because I had not clicked on the share sound. So
If you click like the next slide, it will.
Hi, I'm Lisa. What's your name?
I'm Jack. Nice to meet you, Lisa.
Nice to meet you too, Jack. How old are you?
I'm 15 years old. What about you?
I'm 14. Do you like our school?
Yeah, I do. The teachers are nice and I like my classmates.
I enjoy learning in class. What's your favorite subject?
I like math. Numbers are interesting. What about you?
I like English. Spelling and reading are fun for me.
Cool. Do you play any sports?
Yes, I play soccer.
I play basketball. Anyway, it was nice talking to you, Lisa.
Yeah, you too, Jack. Can I have your phone number?
Sure. It's 555-986-045. I'll text you. See you around.
Okay, it was a little bit long because I had 10 minutes, but you really needed to listen to it. This is not part of my job, but as I'm talking about the contributions, well, it was to be mentioned. It had to be mentioned. So the sense of belonging to the institution after working in this project will increase in talking about me. Then we had the opportunity to create contextualized content. For example, I remember there is a reading over there where I mentioned Soraya Jimenez. I think youngers especially, we need to see these type of examples of women, strong women that can overcome any obstacle. Then the acceptance of the materials by students and teachers. We have had meetings with other teachers, and they said the students are responding very well to the materials. They are answering the exercises before we even explain them. They show interest. The classes are easier going. So I think it has a big success among teachers and students. And finally, as always, we identify some mistakes. There are failures in the books. but also there is change, there is room for improvement, especially in future participations. I think being taken into consideration was very important for us as teachers, because we always say, or in my case, I always say, we are in the classroom, we know the needs, we know what kind of exercises work with the students. Even though this digital age is changing everything, I think we still have many chances to afford to our students, to give them what we needed as a students, I think. And as you can see, the covers of the book, let's do it 1 and 2. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you. I hope this isn't the only, but the first of many forums in the future.
Well, thank you so much, Tania. That was a very clear presentation, and wow, that that looks like a lot of work, but congratulations. Okay, our next presenter is teacher Ana Karen Murua Perez. She will be talking today about collaborative work. And remember, we have, again, 10 minutes for teacher Ana Karen. Ana Karen, are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can everybody hear her? I think so. So we're good to go. The audience is yours.
Thank you. So hello, everyone, and welcome. It's really nice to see so many people here today. To start, I would like to do a quick poll. So in the chat, could you quickly just type solo if you usually create materials alone, or type collab if you often collaborate with others? Just type one word. All right, so I see we have a variety of answers, and this perfectly sets up what we're talking about today, the journey from flying solo to collaborative work. I'm Ana Karen Murua Perez, and in the next 10 minutes, I hope to show you why building your design team might be one of the best things you do for professional growth. Can we go to the next one? Before I tell you where all of this started, it is important to first and foremost be on the same page about what materials are. So, language teaching materials are anything that can be used by language learners to facilitate learning of the target language. Okay. So, my story, like many of yours, began before I graduated from the BA in ELT program at WAS. However, I started my teaching career during the pandemic. So I began as a solo designer, working for a private language school. I had many groups, and I would spend a lot of nights just me and my computer designing, adapting, or adopting worksheets, videos, lesson plans, and more to try to fit the context of all of these different students. Then I got the chance to co-create with colleagues when I started teaching lower elementary levels at a private school. Now, the difference wasn't just a little better, it was practically one of those light bulb moments. The ideas were a lot more creative, the materials were more appealing and cohesive. And the time I now saved was the icing on the cake. These two varying experiences gave me a different perspective when I started teaching the materials design course in the BA in ELT. I moved from practitioner to a facilitator of this process. So, when deciding how to aid my students in this process, I focused on one question: is collaboration actually better, or has it just been my experience? Can we go to the next one? So what did I do? I turned the classroom into a lab, and I turned my students, which some of them are here today, into my guinea pigs, and have done so twice now. Not only because it was going to be easier for me to grade 5 assignments instead of 17, but because I wanted them to experience what I did when it came to materials design. So, months after the experience, I opened a survey for these two groups to get a real glimpse into their data and experiences. Let me share with you what they helped me discover. So, first, here we have a snapshot of the participants. All 17 students are studying to be language teachers, like many of us here did or currently are. I also wanted to get the inside of students on a similar journey and actually received a response from one of my language students studying in a similar BA program where they also take a materials design course, but in a university in Brazil. So you want to go to the next one? Thank you. So just over half had some experience designing together, while 41% of them, which is this lower bar here, this was their very first formal experience ever planning and designing materials. So this was a moment where new material design habits could be fomented and shaped. Now, the results here blew me away. I was not expecting this. Not a single person disagreed that teamwork generated more creative and diverse ideas. Zero. And on feedback, an area I know that many of us here have mixed perspectives and feelings on, over 70% of the students agreed that peer feedback was crucial for improvement. And I would hope that they would see it this way because they're going to be teachers themselves in the future. So this is huge. In our classes, we would dedicate entire sessions and several sessions at a time entirely to peer feedback. Students stopped seeing feedback as criticism and started seeing it as fuel. The process itself became a learning tool. But here's the most exciting part. This isn't just about making better teaching and learning materials. It's about becoming a better teacher. 82% said it strengthened their critical thinking. 88% said they built real world skills like negotiation and delegation. And my favorite stat, because we all love perfect numbers, 100%. Every single student said this experience contributed to their growth as a future teacher. That's the power of collaboration, that it's authentic, it's meaningful, and impactful in our professional development. But we need to get real. Was it all perfect? No, of course not. Not for them as students and not for me as a facilitator of this process. What was the number one challenge? The actual doing. So the designing and the creation of the materials, merging different styles and dividing up the tasks. And I think that sounds familiar to all of us. I saw that one person mentioned that they prefer to do solo work, but they like to share it. So these are not failures. We need to reframe that as a challenge. This isn't a sign that collaboration does not work. These challenges are the learning. This challenge is the way that they practice those negotiation and those delegation skills. The struggle is the point here. This all comes to life in their very own words. These are things that the students actually responded. They said, I was very lost with the scope of sequence, but my teammates helped me. And those are what I call our pedagogical saviors. Next one, I first didn't like the idea of working in teams, but the experience helped me grow as a person. And that's a transformed mindset. This exchange of perspectives makes the final material richer and more meaningful. And this is it. This is the thesis of this entire presentation. So big questions were asked. Is the final product better? Yes. A huge majority said yes. Is it better for you, for your development? An even bigger yes. Nearly 90% of students believe it is. The evidence is undeniable. Collaboration makes better materials and it makes us better professionals. So, what can we do tomorrow? Here are 6 actionable takeaways. We need to start out small. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try to design everything from start to finish and from scratch all on your own. Start by designing one activity with a colleague you share the same level with. Structure the process. Don't start without a purpose or a goal. We need to make this cyclical. So, brainstorming, drafting, feedback, revising, implementing, and repeating. We need to give it a framework and keep track of the results that we get. We need to delegate and trust. We need to play to each team member's strengths. If you're the ideas person, but your design skills are terrible, find your own version of La Niña de los Plumones and get to work together. Embrace the conflict. Differing opinions can be gold mines for deeper thinking. This is where we start fostering those soft skills that make us better professionals. Find your community, and this is a big one. Your team of teachers is out there. Everyone is good at something and can contribute to the team, and you need to make sure that you are getting something from it too. This is not for free. This can make your work easier and better for your students. And last but not least, I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but if you're in charge of a group of teachers, please give them the time in their working schedule. And yes, by this I mean paid time, the space, encouragement, and resources to collaborate, but still expect products and results from the teachers. So most of us started out as solo flyers because it's comfortable and it's safe and no one judges our terrible Canva skills. But it's not how we grow. Social constructivism tells us that growth happens in collaboration. It happens when we share an idea and improve it with someone else's. So my challenge to you today is this: choose collaboration and be intentional about it. Seek it out with your teacher friends and bounce off ideas in the hallways. The materials you create will definitely be better, but more importantly, teacher you will be better too. Thank you so much for your time and attention. It was great at sharing this experience with you.
Perfect timing, Anna Karen. Thank you so much. Okay, well, that was the the fourth panelist of the day. Now, we still have two presentations pending. Let me just. Okay, so next we have Valeria Ochoa.
Yes, hi everyone.
Hi, Valeria, welcome. She will be talking today about the academic strengthening of SEI Nahuelato through evaluative and methodological standardization. So let me just start sharing my screen.
Yeah, thank you.
With you. And whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, again, so good morning, everyone. As Gloria said, I'm Valeria, and today I will share with you this project. Kind of long, the name, but it's Academic Strengthening of SEI Nahuelato through evaluative and methodological standardization. The next one, please. Yeah, thank you. So this project is important because, as we all know, education is the base for many opportunities in life. As we all know, this language, for example, English or any other language, opens doors for example, jobs or studies, and for communication in all global world. Yep. So the proposing here with this project is to improve how we teach, how all the teachers teach, and evaluate the students in our language center so that everyone has the same opportunities and receives the fair treatment. In here, we all know that learning languages, as I am telling you, especially English is essential today because with English, we have this international language, we have business, or we have, I don't know, we can travel around the world, and for the technology and everything. So if students learn English well, they can connect with people from many other countries. Yep, but it's not only teaching English. We have to do more, right, in our English classrooms or in our classrooms. So teaching English is way fair. We have to put it in a fair way, in a clear and motivated way for students. When evaluation is like inconsistent, students can feel confused and sometimes can feel unmotivated, because we always have this, like a teacher, like an English teacher, I always, when I start a new semester or a new course, all the students always say like, I don't know Spanish, how can I know English? So it's like the typical phrase that all the students always say with the English. So with this project, what I want is to give like more fairness to our teaching practices. So the next one, please. Thank you. Thank you. So now let's see like the first problems that I identify, but focusing like here in Seina Volato where I work, okay? So one main issue that I see here is that different teachers use different methods and evaluation systems. For example, I don't know, just to give you an example, one teacher can give more important to the grammar part, while other teacher can give more important to the speaking part. So this create like a lack of coherence between levels. Students, for example, can pass one level, like speaking from here at Seina Volato, no? Like we have 10 levels at the English course. So students can pass that first level, for example, but then when they go to the next level, they can feel unprepared because the expectations are not the same. Yep. So evaluation criteria are not always clear. Some students feel that the grading depends more on the teacher's personal style than on objective rules. So this situation produces dissatisfaction and reduces trust in the academic system, like looking from the point of view from the students. So thank you. Let's go to the next one, please. So I have here some like theoretical basis to solve these problems, okay? So the project is based in 4 important principles. The first one is standardization. So this means using the same rules and criteria for everyone. So give this fairness to the students because all students are evaluated under the same system. And as a second point, we have the assessment as a formative tool. Evaluation, as we all know, is not only about giving a final grade to the students. It should also help students to understand the progress that they are having in each of the levels that they are cursing. So the feedback from, I don't know, from an oral exam to the students should guide to them how to speak better and not just say if they are prepared or not for the oral exam, if they pass the exam or if they failed the exam, sorry, just to explain how they did it in the oral exam. So for the next oral exam that student present, they can do it better. As a third point, we have the teacher development. If teachers continue learning and improving, the quality of education grows, right? So training gives teachers new tools and strategies that make classes more effective. And the fourth is the collaboration. When teachers share the ideas and work as a team, the institution, the school, of course, becomes stronger, because collaboration here helps to create a culture where everyone is moving in the same direction, right? So the next one, please. Now let's see how we apply this principle in a practice, these principal points that I just shared with you. So the first, we developed these standardized rubrics so that all levels use the same evaluation criteria. In this way, students know exactly what they expect in the evaluation process in all levels, and teachers can evaluate in a more objective way, all the teachers. And the second, as a second point, we organize teachers training workshops. For example, again, here in Seina Volato, that we have also PC classes from just Saturdays and the SEI classes from Monday to Friday. Each semester, when we start a new course, we have these teacher training workshops. So in these workshops, we are focused on active methodologies. For example, learning by projects or role plays or interactive activities that involve the students more. Yep, we do those dynamics with the teachers, and then the teachers put them in practice in their classrooms. So the students can feel more involved in their classes because they are part of. And the next point, we integrated projects. Yep. So these projects are not just about exams, but about applying skills in creative ways. For example, students could make videos, presentations, or small research projects. And finally, we held regular collaborative meetings. In these meetings, again, teachers can share the experiences and discuss problems that they already had in the classes, how they solve the problems, or the other teachers can help them to solve those problems, and help each other from other points of views too. The next one, please. So these are the standardized rubrics that we took, like the writing exams and the oral exams, with the criteria that I told you. For example, I don't know, for example, in the writing exams, the grammar part can have, I don't know, the 30% of all the grade, and the vocabulary, the 20%, but the writing part, the 50%, just to give an example. And on the oral exam, we can evaluate the fluency of the student, the pronunciation, the use of the vocabulary from the units that we are evaluating, and the extra that each student should give in those oral exams with the responses and everything. The next one, please. So in the training, we have these training workshops that I told you. So we have the workshops on active methodologies. We continue with the professional development and positive teaching feedback. So all the teachers can know how they are doing through the days. And the formative projects, we have the projects that I told you that we can let different projects to the students depending on the units and the levels that the students are. And the results and the challenges. We have some challenges here. And as far as the results, well, we have the grade and curricular coherence and fairer evaluation system, improve the students' progress tracking, and teachers' collaboration enhanced. And the challenges that we had here, well, not everything was easy, but we have to continue training the teachers. Every day we are learning from the students, and we have to keep developing these skills that we have to be in front of a group. And the time management, of course, because sometimes the class is shorted, and and as the situation that I have here with the time that I just finished with mine. And just pretty quick, the conclusion. If I can do it. In conclusion, this project, well, shows the standardization is very helpful. It improves efficiency, and students' satisfaction are, well, better, And the teacher's training is essential to keep quality high, and collaboration helps to build a strong and positive culture inside the institution. And we have like future proposals, you know? So just talking like that in that future, that perfect future that we all know and we all want. So the strength teacher mentorship, so that the experienced teachers can guide new ones, you know, because we always have these new generations. So the ones that we have a little bit of the context, we can guide the new ones, the others that are coming in our institutions. And as a second, use the digital assessment tools. We know that this world is now a technological world, so we have to be part of that technology system and use those technological tools that we have every day. And the last one is expand collaborative sessions, giving teachers more time and space to share experiences and best practices. So thank you so much. I took a little bit more of my time, but thank you all for your attention.
It was only like 1 more minute, so not a big yeah. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
participation. Okay, well, we are almost at the end of this very interesting panel. Last but not least, we have Linda Musaye Osuna Garcia, who will be sharing today with us a presentation called "What Makes an Effective English Teacher?" Question mark. So I think that gives me a lot of curiosity. Let's hear Linda. Let me just finish sharing PowerPoint, and Linda, whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gloria, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for being here today. I think we are here because we love teaching and we want to continue learning, right? So that's why the question is, what makes an effective English teacher? So before we actually start with that, I would like to ask you, who do you think should be in charge of teachers' professional development? Like the teacher or the publishers, you know, when they have books and they send us to training, or our boss? Well, actually, research shows that the best or the one that is in charge is ourselves as teachers. We should be in charge of our own professional development. Can we change the slide, please? Why? Because we cannot develop passively. We have to develop actively. So that's why it's so central, you know, that our decisions concerning the direction and processes are made by ourselves. Can we change the slide, please? And actually, one of the things that is going to help us to be in charge is understanding that teachers' autonomy and our perceived influence over professional development goal setting is the area that is most associated with higher satisfaction and a greater intention to stay in teaching. So the more decisions you make about your own growth, the more autonomy you will feel, and therefore, the more you will enjoy your job. So once we understand that part, we also need to understand that, next slide, please, every teacher is different, right? And we have different levels of experience. We have different priorities. We also have different ways how we enjoy learning. And therefore, there is no specific or there is no unique style of professional learning that will fit us all. So the question here is then, what makes us effective? Where do we start? That's why today we are going to talk about 8 different skills that can help us or that to decide where we can start and how we can become effective. Can we move to the next one, please? Well, the next one actually. So the first is one developing the discourse skills of a language teacher. So if we're a language teacher, what should be our strongest point? Language. Let's move to the next one. And this includes then that our English level needs to be strong, our understanding of the use of meta language, grading our language in class, which basically means making conscious decisions when you're in the classroom so you can adapt to different levels, providing opportunities for students to develop and extend their linguistic resources. What else can we give them from a linguistic point of view besides what the book says? Now, number 2 It's, can we move on? Developing our identity as a teacher. This is a very interesting point because research shows that our identity as a teacher changes with our experience and with our own professional maturity. So in this particular case, for example, the different social and cultural roles you will enact through your interactions with learners and the rest of your teacher's team during the process of learning will change your own way how you perceive yourself as a teacher. Also, these roles, as I mentioned before, are not static. They are constantly moving and they are shaped by our personal biography, by our culture, by our working conditions, by our age, by our gender, and the school and classroom culture we work in. So we need to think a little bit about our own identity. What does being a teacher mean to me now, as opposed to what it meant to me 5 years ago? Next one, please. The third principle has to do with developing a repertoire of teaching skills. What does that mean? Let's move on to the next one, please. We need to develop routines and procedures for different things so our lessons are complete and they are stable in a way or well organized. So this has to do with the way we open a lesson, how we introduce and explain tasks, how we set up learning arrangement, when we should change the learning arrangement within the classroom, also how we can check students' understanding, how to guide our students with the practice of the language they are doing, and how to monitor students' language use. Once we develop a repertoire of all these routines and procedures, our job becomes more organized and stronger, right? So let's move on to the next principle, and this has to do with learning how to apply professional knowledge. What does that mean? Well, there are three different types or kinds of knowledge. We have disciplinary knowledge, which means that we know what the language teaching profession is. For example, the language teaching methods, the contemporary linguistic theories. But then we have content knowledge, which basically it's referred to the language teaching and that can be applied in the classroom. For example, planning, assessment, teaching children, teaching skills. What specific theme or topic am I teaching today? But then we have also technological pedagogical content knowledge. And this has to do with being able to use technology, create materials and activities that apply depending on the topic I'm teaching, right? And being able to teach with technology, not just because, it's a trend, but because this specific app is what I need so I can achieve whichever goal I have. Let's move on to the next one, please. In principle number 5 has to do with developing an understanding of how learning is shaped by context. What does that mean? Let's move on to the next one, please. Where are we right now? We should be in number 5.
Okay, I got a little problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going here.
Okay, so as I said before, number 5 is developing an understanding of how learning is shaped by context. What does that mean? Let's move on to the next one. This basically means that as teachers, we need to work and teach in different levels. Teaching young adults is very different from teaching adults. Teaching or working in public schools is very different from private institutions. Teaching general English is very different from ESP. So there are different areas where we can learn how to teach or that we can teach and reflect on the experience in all those places. And that's going to develop an understanding of how each one of those groups learn and therefore enhance our own professional knowledge. Now, principle number 6 has to do with developing the cognitive skills of a teacher. What's that? Well, this has to do with learning and developing pedagogical reasoning skills. That means we can analyze potential lesson content. You can hear a song and think, oh, I can use this song to teach whatever. Or you read an article, oh, I can use this article to teach whatever, right? So when you start identifying ways and how you can use everything or anything in your lesson, you start working on your pedagogical reasoning skills. We can also identify specific linguistic goals in any different area that could be developed from the chosen content, not just because the book says that, but because you see potential to teach something else with the material you already have. Also, when we anticipate any problems that might occur and ways to resolving them, and when we make appropriate decisions about time, sequencing, and grouping arrangements. When this starts coming natural to you, it means that you are developing the cognitive teacher skills that are needed. And now let's move on to the seventh one, and that has to do with developing learner-focused teaching. This is a learner-focused teaching. It's very common right now. But what exactly does that mean? Well, when you're beginning, in your teaching career, we are very concerned about how good you are and the impact your teaching has in your learners. but the more experienced you are, you change that. And you stop thinking in terms of teaching performance, and you start working on learner engagement. So it's not about how much I teach, it's more about how much my students learn. So the idea here is that we start working and shifting from me to them, and that takes time. I mean, it's very easy to write an essay about it, but it's really hard to do it within the classroom. So it takes time to understand what is learner focused mean, what does learner focus mean, and how I can apply it in the classroom. But it's definitely a good idea to have it as a goal. And finally, we have point number 8, learning how to theorize from practice. Obviously, as teacher, we have a lot of information that we are, developing data when you're in the classroom, but usually we don't use it to make our own theories. So here, the idea is that you develop your personal system of knowledge, beliefs, and understanding that is drawn from your practical experience. And when you start making connections between what you do and what you experience, then you start understanding teaching and then theoretical understanding. And obviously, the more you reflect about your own practice, the more you develop an understanding of its underlying meaning, and it will help you to also understand the nature of language teaching and learning. So these 8 principles with these ideas can help us as a start point where we can continue learning and being more effective when it comes to teaching. So let's move on to the next slide, where we see what Zeichner and Lisson mentioned. They said that support reflective teaching, stating that teaching is work that entails both thinking and feeling. And those who can reflectively think and feel will find their work more rewarding and their efforts more successful. So teachers who think carefully about their job not just become better teachers, like it says here, but they enjoy it more. They are happier in their job because they are in charge of their own growth. So now the idea is here, where are you in each one of these different cognitive skills? What things have you already developed? Because obviously you have some. So where are you? Which ones do you want to develop? And what will you do to continue growing? I hope this helps you so you can make closer or better decisions when it comes to your own professional development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda, and thank you everybody for such excellent presentations. We have covered a lot of and a very wide range of topics today. So now we will move on to the questions and answers section. We have many questions today, so I'm going to try to give one question to each of the presenters in case there are. So I'm pretty sure I had seen one prior to this one, but the first one was meant for Jake. Okay, it says, how can a teacher from Mexico collaborate on a research project with the British Council?
Sure thing. And just before I answer that, yeah, what wonderful presentations. It was really, really enjoyable to be learning from them. And I think, Gloria, were you in charge of the slides? Um, Excellent work behind the scenes there to make it all happen. Not an easy job. So kudos. So the British Council is just one of many organizations that I'm sure can play a role supporting professional development and in particular around research opportunities. So I put 2 links in the chat earlier. One more focused on the world of assessment, and I can repost those. So different small fundings to develop research projects that could work in Sinaloa. And the ELTRAs, so the English Language Teaching Research Awards, a lovely mouthful of an acronym that talk about kind of collaborations. I think this year the theme was all about empowerment. So how we can empower young learners or sort of adolescent learners and our teachers in complex learning environments. So those are 2 interesting options. The one final option I'd mention is a Future of English project that we're hoping to get off the ground in Mexico this year, looking at a title called The Economic Value of English. So in a post-pandemic world with flux and technological change, what role do government, corporate sector, and 18 to 23-year-olds see languages playing in their future, and how, whether that on personal, professional, or academic fields. So potential opportunities for research within with students from Universidad Autónoma Sinaloa or other partners on the call. So watch this space. As you can all imagine, within the current financial economic crisis, money isn't as abundant as it might have once have been. So opportunities are rarer, but keep your eye out for them. They come through organizations like British Council. There's an organization called Turf, Pearson's, Oxford's, ETS, all offering fantastic opportunities. So just keep your eyes out for that. I put an email address in the chat earlier as well that might be useful for just staying in touch with British Council Mexico around that. I hope that was somewhat useful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jake. I'm going to move on to the next question. This is meant for teacher Laura Jimenez. The question goes, are the proposals you present a redesign to the existing curriculum or additional elements to the four-year program that already exists in the bachelor's program? I would like to know what are the more practical proposals to slowly start integrating this.
Okay, nice questions, two at the same time, I'm afraid. Okay, right. It's not, it's a nice question. I mean, it's interesting as well. It's not starting from the very beginning again. We have strong grounds. I mentioned that at the very beginning, very quickly maybe, right? But we should keep what we already have, but it means restructuring. Restructuring means have an observation for what's happening. We have teachers entering university, future English language teachers with different minding and also mindsets and also desires for the future, for the professional future. So we have to try to give them strong and solid grounds for their profession. So this is my point of view, this is my observation. And in a practical way, well, the first starting point is formal and consolidating gathering, okay, within teachers, not just in Mazatlan, but around the state, and even registering, okay, having formats and records of formal gatherings. In Spain, we call that claustros, right? So this is what I really expect as a very beginning, and receive information and also ideas from other colleagues around the state.
Okay, thank you, Laura. The next question is for teacher Tania. Teacher Tania, what challenges have you faced when creating the material, the books, the textbooks?
Okay. Well, first, I think I didn't mention in the first book, we were a group of about 50 teachers working together. And for me, it is better to work face-to-face. And we didn't have the opportunity to work with all the teachers at the same time. So for me, that was a challenge because I like the real life interaction besides the virtual one. So this was one of the challenges. And the other one was try to recreate real life situations in the exercises that I contributed with. I don't know if I can share my screen. If not, I will explain. For example, there is an exercise here. Well, I think I don't have permission to share my screen. Well, there was an exercise where you go to a store and the cashier asks you if you are going to use cash or if you're going to use a credit card. So they don't accept credit cards. I know in this world is not very common. So you ask for an ATM. So trying to use vocabulary that you really need when you go to the United States or to other place where English is spoken. For example, there is another exercise or another conversation between an Airbnb person who rents her house and one person who wants to go, and he has questions about the renting process and if they are allowed pets and things like that. So trying to recreate real life situations, and also that the students could understand what they were asked to do in the exercises, like be very clear with instructions. Those were challenges that I had to face. In the second book, we were only 15 teachers working, so I had to work more like by myself. I didn't have that internal team evaluation that we went through in the first book. I think that I missed that, like having someone to talk about, what do you think about this? I had my coordinator, but in the first book, we really needed to check on the other teachers. That is something that can be a pro and a con, because as Ana Karen said, the schedules, the time schedules, I cannot, today I work. I'm a mom, for example, and now my kids has a baseball game or something, so getting together, just taking the time to take a virtual meeting sometimes was very difficult. So those were the challenges that I went through with the creation of the book.
One little question more for you, Tanya. Is there a sample that we can access maybe online, or how can we check the textbook?
Okay, I already checked because Dirección General de Escuelas Preparatorias has a website, but the book that is on the website is not the one we are using. I don't know. I think there is no problem. If you want, I can share, because we share the book with our students. Sometimes it is digital also. So I'm going to write down my email so you can send me an email. And if there is no problem, I'm going to check first with Evelyn, the coordinator of the English Academy. But I don't think there will be a problem if we share the work that we have done.
Okay, thank you. Next question, Ana Karen. So how did you work with other teachers? How did you overcome schedule issues? What were the drawbacks of collaboration? How can we solve them?
All right. Well, when I first started collaborating with teachers, like I mentioned, it was during the pandemic. So there were a lot of structural changes to the classes and the length of the classes, which meant that we had more time at school together, not teaching the students. So that time we used it to get together and to plan things, which is why I suggested the very final point, and why I tried to replicate this with my students by not having it be lectures inside the classroom and then you go home and figure out how to work, which I think is one of the disadvantages that we have here in Mexico, that all of our working hours are teaching hours. We are not given time to plan during our working schedules. We are not given time to collaborate during our working schedules. Like Tanya was mentioning, you're a mom, you have to do these other things, and you're expected to do half of your work during your personal time. So I wish there was an answer apart from this is a structural change that needs to happen, that during our working schedules, we need to be given the time to collaborate, to make materials, design materials. And I think we're going to see how this positively impacts our teaching and learning. We as teachers, we're going to be better rested, and we are going to be much more sure of what we are doing, which is going to result in better teaching and better learning.
Okay, thank you, Ana Karen. And if I'm sure that those are all of the questions that I have in the chat, but I have 2 minutes if there's anyone that would like to ask one last question to one of our panelists. If I see any hands. Okay, it seems like it's not the case. So that will be the end of our Q&A session. And thank you all so much. But before we go, I am going to give the floor to our dear Evelyn Guerrero, who's here to closure this panel. Evelyn, the audience
Thank you,
is yours.
Gloria. Yes, thank you. What an interesting panel. Congratulations to everybody. And thank you, Gloria, for your help and support during these days and during the past months too. Thank you to Rigo, to you, Gloria, and your team too. Well, unfortunately, the following conference will not be held as a schedule due to situations out of our control. So, but we want to thank PhD Covarrubias for all his support for this event. And we hope we can hear his lecture in the near future. So to close this panel and to close this forum, on behalf of the Universidad Autónoma de Sinaloa y la Dirección General de Escuelas Preparatorias, it is our honor as the state coordinators of the English Academy, Angel and I, to thank you for being part of Ltif 2025. Over these days, we have shared classroom ideas, solid research, and inspiring stories from practice. 3 commitments stand out as we move forward. Number 1, teach English with purpose. Keep growing as teachers, learning together in communities of practice, and make learning cross-curricular in real life situations. So we want to thank everybody, especially our keynote speakers, our panelists, workshop leaders, WAS teachers, moderators, and all the participants. To our institutional allies and partners, and also to the organizing and technical team, Gemma, Melissa, Enrique from DGP, who's behind the scenes work with us to make this forum possible. Thank you to everybody, and I'm very glad to see you here, and we hope to see you next year. Angel, please.
Thank you. Now, as an announcement, as an announcement, in the next couple of days, we'll send by your email your certificates. You need to watch your inbox and even check the spam batch just in case. Next week, we invite you to do 3 things. Try one idea you discover here in the forum, share it with one colleague, and collect one piece of evidence of its impact of students. Please put your ideas into practice. This is what we want. Document what happens as lesson notes, students' work. It could be a quick reflections, and consider submitting a proposal to join us next year, not only as an attendant, but as a panelist or as a speaker. We need to do small steps. We take small steps, and small steps done together become transformation. We have to stay in touch. The forum ends today, but our work as a community keeps going. Thank you for your dedication, your generosity, and I hope you bring everything you have learned to your classroom. Well, as it is now 12:39 of September 20th, 2025, we officially bring the first Language Teaching International Forum to a close. See you at Ltif 2026. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.